No, this isn't going to be some manifesto about how I'm already going to be quitting game development and YouTube right when I'm at the literal prime of my channel, but this is sponsored by Brilliant, so stick around for that. Anyone and everyone they know faces this when working on any given project. It is the utter bane of the existence of any hobbyist, the reason they'll give up on a lifetime's worth of effort over it. Everyone hates it, everyone's tired of it, everyone wishes it didn't exist, everyone's burnt out. It's that feeling when you've got absolutely nothing in you to carry on with the current project, when you do not have but a single fiber of motivation to sit there and do a single thing with it. You want to work on it and you want to see it through, but you just can't. It's a hard thing to explain. I've had to go through this several times over game development. I knew from the beginning that I shouldn't overscope any project, as 90% of the time that only leads to me getting that massive drought in motivation, and then I write an essay on the itch page about how the project's getting abandoned that no one but future me is gonna read. But sometimes my sheer ambition and perfectionism gets the best of me. Even before I went full swing into game dev, there have been times where I would work on something but drop it later on, either because I wanted to do something else or entirely lost motivation. In game development. This one starts with a platform I used to learn game development before switching over to a real game engine, Rec Room. Starting in 2020 as a desperate attempt to make the game profitable, Rec Room switched to being this user-generated metaverse platform similar to Roblox and now Fortnite. This included making it so you can charge tokens, the in-game currency, for items in a player-made room and exchange it for real cash. Due to that and several other factors, the quality of them took the absolute biggest nosedive the gaming industry has ever seen. By early 2024, it got so bad that it drove me, a chronically online 16-year-old at the time, to start working on a player-made room to end all player-made rooms. One to essentially be my magnum opus of creating stuff in Rec Room, and one of my first real instances of losing motivation in game development. This is Token Spending Simulator. You start off in the Rec Center, Rec Room's main social hub, and use your hard-earned fake tokens to buy everything in the merch booth and move on to the next level. And I only got as far as that before realizing this is going to take a hella long time to finish, also because I wanted to work on something else at the time. I also had no idea on how I would have the time to build each stage and set from scratch, do all the circuits for them, polish it all up, and everything else. This was basically 7 or 8 entire games compiled into a single room. It was going to have a whole overarching story with like 3 different endings depending on how many knockoff tokens the players spend in the room. It was going to have entire animated cutscenes between each level, and it would even use licensed music as part of the credits. Sometimes I hate how overly ambitious I get with stuff like this. Every now and then I actually have the determination to pull it off, but whenever I come up with a good enough idea for a project, it just lives in my head rent-free until I actually get to working on it. And the longer it sits in my head and the more I think about it, the more ideas I come up with it, and then those start sticking in my head too, and I can't just forget about it until I actually start on it, and oh my god. I always want to make whatever I'm working on the most definitive version of it I could possibly make. I'll only be doing it once, so why not try my best at it? It also doesn't help that my ambition still doesn't at all match my skill. I can go into a project with confidence and pride, knowing full well I'll be watching tutorial after tutorial the entire way through without using some other service or app to learn all of it and get experience beforehand. Just like Brilliant, the sponsor of this video. Oh, got 'em! Brilliant is a learning app designed for you to learn pretty much anything revolving around STEM, such as computer science, AI, algebra, and so much more. It features loads of courses made by real human experts in the field, letting you go at your own pace, building an actual understanding of the subject with interactive problems and exercises in every lesson. For instance, whether you like it or not, AI is absolutely everywhere now and has become a near essential thing to learn when it comes to computer science. Even I myself have genuinely been considering learning it to stay ahead of my game. Brilliant stays up to date with new courses around emerging technology as well as updating existing ones, commands. They have an entire course dedicated to large language models, how they function, and how you can modify them. Brilliant is fantastic if you'd like to get a head start in learning something new, or if you'd like to brush up on and practice something you already know. The entire world has come to revolve around math, so why not take advantage of it and learn how it works? Begin learning for 30 days free by either going to brilliant.org/theluchinator, scanning the QR code on screen, or clicking the link in the description. Brilliant also gives viewers a 20% discount off an annual subscription to Premium, giving you unlimited daily access to anything and everything on Brilliant. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. Have you ever had a game suck up so much of your time, yet it feels like you've done so little? This is the worst I have ever gotten burnt out over a project, not just in game development, but for anything I've done. In 2022, I saved up for and bought the gaming laptop I still use today to make videos and games. For a laptop, it's able to run VR games pretty damn well, and I also already had an Oculus Quest 2. It's been around a year since I started learning Unity as well, so why not combine the three and develop a small VR game to test it out? I remember being inspired by Boneworks and Rec Room's The Rise of Jumbotron, because of course. Me and some of my cousins liked playing those games a lot, so I was eager to start working on this game. The game in question? Metro Meltdown. I glossed over this game in my video from over a year ago documenting my progress in game development, but there's a lot of stuff I left out that I like to talk about now. The game sorta inflated in scope as I was developing it. I even put it up on SideQuest instead of only itch.io. I made an entire original soundtrack for it. It had quote-unquote world building within the game, and was going to have 8 to 10 completely different levels having you do and see completely different things. One was going to have a level entirely revolved around grappling, one where you were on a train shooting enemies out the window, one where you had to run from a swarm of drones, one set inside a sewer, and a whole final boss at the end. I made sketches like these for almost every level in the game, as well as my whole process for making one level. I had zero idea how to create my own in-engine level editor that generated all the buildings and whatnot procedurally or whatever, so I had to do it all by hand. The whole process of building a single level consisted of tediously placing the floor tiles, then the buildings, then the props, then where all the enemies and weapons are going to be, and finally referencing the previous and next level so the player can progress, all using Unity's horrid snapping system. This method of creating levels ended up taking a toll on me and how much progress I made on the game. Each level took more and more time to complete, which I would mostly spend changing some tiny thing to make the game feel slightly better. I started growing more and more unhappy with the state the game was in. It was obvious I was just trying to get things done for the sake of getting it done without fully polishing it out. The game was a buggy mess and was in so much technical debt that it took forever to add on to a single feature or make a new one entirely. Eventually, an entire year later and a few months after releasing some demo for the game, I decided to throw in the towel, announced to the void that is the internet that the full game was cancelled, made my final commit to the project on GitHub, and moved on. There isn't much that hasn't already been said a million times regarding motivation in game development. Obviously, keep the scope of your game small, don't fall in love with your game, and especially let yourself take breaks, but don't force yourself to take breaks. I'm the type of guy who always wants to be working on something. Like if I'm not doing something productive or actually worthwhile with my life, I just feel like a total slob, like a literal boulder sitting in my house. Sometimes I think it's good to have several projects to work on at once, at least if they're not due by a certain date. If you genuinely do not have it in you to continue working on a game or an animation or a website, just let it go for a while. Take a few days to a few weeks off to put your effort and creativity into something else while you remember why you started what you were working on. What drove you to say to yourself, yes, I'm willing to spend this amount of time on this thing that I want to make a reality? It's a great thing to keep the reason you started a project in mind, especially after a long period of time. I don't blame you for giving up on something because you don't agree with or don't see the point in what first made you start on it. Just take a step back and ask yourself whether or not what you've spent whatever amount of time on will truly be worth your future time and effort. I started Metro Meltdown because I wanted to see what making a VR game was like. I didn't mean to put an entire year into it for me to eventually cancel it. I never planned out what I wanted the game to be to begin with and just let my ambition and creativity get the best of me, resulting in a mess where I only wanted more and more out of it yet didn't have the skills to properly execute it. This wouldn't at all have happened if I kept myself in check, planned everything ahead of time, stuck to a specific vision as much as I could, and remembered the why I gave to the project.